The fence post had been broken for 3 days, and Danny Reeves finally ran out of excuses to ignore it. At 16, he had learned that ranch work waited for no one. His grandfather certainly would not do it. The old man's knees had given out years ago. Danny guided his horse along the ridge as the sun began its slow fall toward the mountains. Montana stretched endlessly around him, empty, quiet, the kind of quiet that made him feel like the last person on Earth. Then the sky caught fire. Not a meteor, Danny had seen plenty of those. This thing moved with purpose. It spiraled, twisted, and tried to correct itself before slamming into the canyon beyond Miller's Ridge. The impact shook the ground beneath his horse's hooves. Common sense told him to ride home, call someone, let the adults handle whatever just fell from space. Danny was 16. Common sense was not his strength. He pushed his horse forward, riding hard toward the smoke rising from the canyon. 20 minutes later, he climbed down a rocky slope and found something that changed everything. A ship, small, barely bigger than his grandfather's truck, half buried in shattered rock. Its surface looked like liquid metal frozen mid-ripple. Smoke poured from cracks along its side. Danny approached slowly. His heart pounded so loud he could hear it in his ears. The ship's hull had torn open on impact. Through the gap he saw movement. Something was alive in there. He squeezed through the opening. The interior was dark except for flickering lights that pulsed in strange patterns. And in the pilot's seat, strapped in by cables that looked grown rather than built, sat something that was definitely not human. Silver skin, 4 arms, a face with too many eyes, all of them fixed on Danny. The alien was dying. Even across species, Danny recognized that look. He had seen it when his parents' car was pulled from the river 3 years ago. The look of someone already gone, just waiting for their body to catch up. The alien reached toward him with 2 of its arms. In its hands, it held something that looked like a blade made of black glass. Beautiful, terrible, warm somehow, like it had been sitting in sunlight. Danny took it without thinking. The moment his fingers closed around the handle, he felt something shift inside his skull. Like a door opening in a room he never knew existed. "You are young," the words appeared directly in his mind, the alien's mouth. Never moved, uncorrupted, the blade chooses, run. "I do not understand," Danny said out loud. The alien's many eyes began to dim. "They are coming, the Dominion. They will burn this world to find what you now carry. Run, hide, survive." The alien's head fell back. The lights in the ship flickered once more and died. Danny stood frozen, the blade growing warmer in his grip. He wanted to drop it. He wanted to pretend none of this had happened. But when he tried to let go, his fingers would not obey. A sound from outside. Engines, multiple engines, growing louder. Danny looked up through the torn hull and saw lights descending from the sky. More ships, bigger ones, and something in his gut told him these were not friendly. He ran. Back through the gap in the hull, up the rocky slope, sliding and scrambling. His horse waited where he had left her, nervous and stamping. Danny threw himself onto her back and kicked her into a gallop. The ships were landing now. He could see figures emerging from them. Some looked human, others did not. Danny knew these hills. He had explored every cave, every hidden valley, every forgotten trail since he was old enough to ride alone. His grandfather used to joke that Danny knew the land better than the deer that lived on it. That knowledge saved his life. He found the caves as full darkness fell. The same caves where he had played explorer as a child, where he had hidden supplies and built secret camps. He led his horse inside the largest entrance and moved deep into the shadows. Only then did he look at the blade in his hand. It was glowing now. Faint symbols ran along its edge, pulsing with soft light, and somehow, impossibly, Danny could read them. Bonded inheritance confirmed. "What does that mean?" he whispered. The blade did not answer, but it grew warm against his palm, almost comforting, like it was trying to tell him everything would be okay. Outside, searchlights swept across the canyon. Voices called out in languages Danny had never heard. The hunt had begun. Danny pressed himself deeper into the darkness, the alien blade clutched to his chest. He was 16 years old. A week ago, his biggest worry had been passing his history exam. Now he was hiding in a cave, holding a weapon from the stars, being hunted by things he could not name. The galaxy had found Earth, and for reasons Danny did not understand, it had chosen him. He closed his eyes and tried to slow his breathing. The blade pulsed gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. Whatever came next, there was no going back. 3 days of hiding had taught Danny Reeves that hunger was worse than fear. Fear kept you sharp. Hunger made you stupid. He had survived on old supplies cached in the caves during his explorer days. Canned beans, crackers that tasted like cardboard, water from an underground stream that ran cold and clean through the rock. But the food was running out, and the blade would not leave him alone. Every time he set it down, it reappeared in his hand within minutes. Not teleporting exactly, more like it refused to accept being separated from him. The bond the dying alien mentioned was real. Danny just wished he understood what it meant. On the third night, he made a decision. He needed to check on his grandfather. Danny left his horse in the caves and made his way across the hills on foot, moving at night, staying low. The skills his grandfather had taught him for hunting deer now kept him alive. The ranch came into view just before midnight. Black vehicles surrounded the farmhouse. Not military, not police, something else. Men in dark suits moved between them, speaking into devices Danny did not recognize. And standing among them, towering over the humans by a full head, were creatures that made Danny's blood run cold. Reptilian, cold-eyed. Their scales caught the moonlight with a dull gleam. They wore armor that looked grown from their own bodies, and they carried weapons that hummed with contained power. Danny crept closer, using the barn for cover. Through the farmhouse window, he could see his grandfather sitting at the kitchen table. 2 of the reptilian creatures stood over him, asking questions. The blade grew warm in Danny's hand. Suddenly, he could understand their words. "The Sunblade was tracked to this region," one creature hissed. "You will tell us where the courier went." "I already told you," his grandfather said. His voice was steady, but Danny knew the old man well enough to hear the fear underneath. "I do not know anything about any crashed ships or alien blades. I am just a rancher." The creature leaned closer. "The Dominion Keth do not ask twice. If you are hiding information, we will cleanse this settlement and search the ashes." Danny's grip tightened on the blade. Cleanse. He understood what that word meant. He had 2 choices: reveal himself and probably die, or watch his grandfather be killed and live with that weight forever. Danny chose a third option. He found a gas can in the barn, soaked a hay bale, struck a match. The fire spread fast. Shouts erupted as the Keth rushed toward the burning barn. Danny used the chaos to circle around to the back of the farmhouse. But one of the Keth spotted him. The creature moved faster than anything that size should move. It crossed the yard in seconds, clawed hand reaching for Danny's throat. The blade moved before Danny could think. One moment the Keth warrior was grabbing him. The next moment the creature was falling in 2 pieces, its armor sliced clean through. Danny stared at the blade in his hand. It had cut through alien metal like paper, like nothing, and it had happened so fast he barely registered the motion. More Keth were turning toward him now, more weapons powering up. Then a new sound filled the night. A ship descended from the clouds, small and fast, its hull painted with symbols that made the Keth hesitate. A hatch opened. A voice called out in heavily accented English. "Human, if you want to live, get on the ship now." Danny ran. Weapons fire scorched the ground behind him. He leaped through the hatch and crashed onto the deck as the ship rocketed skyward. The hatch sealed behind him. Gravity shifted as the ship banked hard, evading pursuit. Danny pushed himself up and found himself face to face with the strangest creatures he had seen yet. They looked like foxes, Small, barely 4 feet tall, covered in rust-colored fur with large, pointed ears and sharp amber eyes. There were 7 of them, all staring at him with expressions he could not read. The one in front, a female with a scar running across her muzzle, looked at the blade in his hand. Her eyes went wide. She dropped to her knees. "The Sunblade lives," she whispered. "The Dominion's reign ends." Danny looked at the blade, then at the kneeling fox creature, then at the stars visible through the ship's viewport. "Someone needs to explain what is happening," he said. "Right now." The female rose slowly, her eyes never leaving the blade. "I am Scylla," she said, "captain of the Last Whisper, and you young human are carrying the last hope of 1,000,000,000,000 enslaved souls." Danny's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the deck. "I am 16, he said weakly. Scylla's scarred face twisted into something that might have been a smile. "The Sunblade does not care about age. It cares about worth, and it has chosen you." Behind them, through the viewport, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among millions. Danny had wanted adventure his whole life. Now he had it. He was absolutely terrified. Hyperspace looked like nothing Danny had imagined. No streaking stars, no tunnel of light, just a swirling gray void that made his eyes hurt if he stared too long. He sat in the small common room of the Last Whisper, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like wet fur, trying to process everything Scylla had told him. The Sunblades were not weapons, they were keys. 10,000 years ago, a civilization called the Architects had ruled the galaxy. They built wonders that modern species could not understand, let alone replicate. Then, without warning, they vanished. They left behind only ruins, mysteries, and 12 blades made of materials that defied analysis. Each Sunblade could unlock pieces of Architect technology. Together, all 12 could trigger something called the Awakening. No one knew what the Awakening actually was. The Dominion feared it enough to spend centuries hunting down every blade. They had succeeded. One by one, the Sunblades fell into Dominion hands. The Order of Blade Keepers, sworn to protect them, was hunted to extinction. Scylla and her crew were the last survivors. They had spent decades searching for any remaining free blade. When the courier stole the last one and fled toward an uncharted primitive world, they followed. They arrived too late to save the courier, but not too late to save Danny. "I still do not understand why it chose me," Danny said. Scylla sat across from him, her amber eyes reflecting the dim lights of the ship. The other Rin crew members moved quietly around them, giving their captain space. "The Sunblades bond only with those they deem worthy," Scylla explained. "For 800 years, no new wielder has been chosen. Every keeper died without passing on their blade. We believed the blades had lost faith in living beings. And then one bonded with a random teenager from a planet you had never heard of." "Not random, never random," Scylla leaned forward. "The blades see something in the soul, potential, purity. I do not know the exact criteria, no one does, but whatever it is, you have it." Danny looked at the blade resting across his knees. It was always warm now, always faintly humming with energy he could feel. "In his bones." "The Keth called it the last Sunblade," he said, "but you said there were 12. 11 are in Dominion hands, locked away, used to power their war machines and crack open Architect vaults. This one was being transported for destruction when the courier's conscience finally broke." Scylla's scarred face darkened. "He was my brother. He served the Dominion for 30 years before he found the courage to run." "I am sorry." "He died free. That is more than most can say." An alarm blared. The ship shuddered. One of the Rin crew shouted something in their own language. "Dominion pursuit," Scylla said, already moving toward the cockpit. "They tracked us faster than I hoped." Danny followed her. Through the cockpit viewport, he could see ships emerging from hyperspace behind them. Keth warships, sleek and predatory, closing the distance fast. "Can we outrun them?" "No," Scylla's hands flew across the controls. "We fight or we die." The first shots hit the Last Whisper's shields. The ship rocked violently. Danny grabbed a support rail to keep from falling. One of the Keth ships pulled alongside. Through its viewport, Danny could see the crew preparing boarding equipment. They were going to cut their way in. "Scylla, they are coming through the hull." "I know." She was fighting the controls, trying to break away, but two more ships had boxed them in. "We cannot stop them." The blade pulsed in Danny's hand. Heat flooded up his arm, and suddenly, without understanding how, he knew what to do. He ran toward the breach point. The Rin shouted after him, but he did not stop. He reached the hull just as the cutting torch broke through. Danny raised the blade. Light exploded from it, not the soft glow he had seen before. This was blinding, brilliant, a shield of solid radiance that formed in front of him like a wall. The Keth burst through the breach. Their weapons fired, the shots hit the shield and vanished. Danny pushed forward. The shield moved with him, expanding, forcing the Keth back through the hole they had cut. They tumbled into the void between ships. The breach sealed itself, not through any action of Danny's. The blade simply made it happen. He stood there gasping, the light slowly fading from the blade. The Rin crew stared at him with expressions of pure shock. Scylla's voice came from behind him, barely a whisper. "That technique died with the last human blade keeper, 4,000 years ago." Danny turned. "What?" "Humans have held sunblades before, long ago before your species forgot the stars, and they could do things with the blades that no other species could match." Scylla's eyes were wide, almost frightened. "We thought that knowledge was lost forever, but you just used it on instinct." The Keth ships were retreating. Whatever Danny had done, it had scared them. Danny looked at the blade in his hand. It hummed with satisfaction. "I do not know how I did that," he admitted. Scylla stepped closer. "The blade knows, and it is teaching you. You are not just a keeper, Danny Reeves. You are something more, something the galaxy has not seen in 4,000 years. She placed a furred hand on his shoulder. "Welcome to the war." Anchor Point hung in the debris field of a shattered moon, invisible to anyone who did not know exactly where to look. A city built from the carcasses of dead ships, home to everyone the Dominion wanted dead. Danny had been there for 2 months. His body ached from training. His mind buzzed with knowledge the blade poured into him during his sleep. He was not the same boy who had hidden in Montana caves. He was becoming something else. The station's main hall was packed for the council meeting. Species Danny could not have imagined filled the space. Crystalline beings who spoke through patterns of light. Massive creatures that looked like walking mountains. Delicate insectoids with wings like stained glass. Gas giant dwellers contained in hovering pressure suits. All of them watching him. "The human is a child," someone said. The speaker was a tall being covered in blue scales, a representative from a conquered world. "He found a weapon by accident. That does not make him a leader." "The Sunblade chose him," Scylla replied. She stood beside Danny, her small form rigid with tension. "That is not accident, that is destiny." "Destiny," the blue-scaled being laughed. "A word for fools and the desperate." "We are desperate," another voice cut in. This one came from a crystalline elder, its body catching the light in rainbow fragments. "The Dominion has ruled for 1,000 years. They have crushed every rebellion. Perhaps desperation is exactly what we need." Arguments erupted across the hall. Accusations flew. Old grudges surfaced between species that had never trusted each other. Danny listened. He watched. The blade hummed against his hip, feeding him understanding of languages he had never learned. These people were afraid, angry, exhausted from generations of running and hiding. They had every reason to distrust a teenager from a backwater planet. He raised his hand. The gesture was human, meaningless to most species present, but the blade pulsed, and somehow everyone noticed. The hall went quiet. "I did not ask for this," Danny said. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. 2 months ago, I was worried about school exams. Now I am standing in front of people from 100 different worlds, and they expect me to save them." He paused, let the words settle. I cannot promise victory. I cannot even promise I will survive the next month, but I can promise you this. I will not run. I will not hide. The Dominion took 11 Sunblades because no one stood against them. They will not take this one. The blue-scaled being stepped forward. Pretty words, but words do not win wars. No, Danny agreed. Action does, so here is what I propose. We stop running. We go on offense. Intelligence suggests other Sunblades may have survived in hidden vaults. We find them before the Dominion does. We build an army. We fight back. Murmurs spread through the crowd, hope mixed with doubt. The crystalline elder spoke again. And if we fail, if the Dominion destroys us all, then we die fighting instead of hiding, but I do not plan to fail. Before anyone could respond, alarms screamed through the station. A Rin officer rushed into the hall. The Dominion knows we are here, full fleet incoming, hundreds of warships. Panic erupted. Species that had been arguing moments ago now scrambled for exits, for ships, for any escape. Danny felt the blade grow hot. Symbols scrolled across its surface, burning with golden light. Everyone stopped and stared. "What is it doing?" Scylla asked. Danny read the symbols, coordinates, a location somewhere across the galaxy, and beneath the coordinates a single word that made his blood run cold. "These are coordinates," he said slowly, "to the Dominion throne world." The crystalline elder made a sound like breaking glass. "The blade is calling you to the heart of the Empire. That is suicide." Maybe, Danny studied the glowing symbols, or maybe there is something there the Dominion does not want anyone to find, something they built their entire empire to protect. Scylla grabbed his arm. "We need to evacuate now. We can discuss this later." "No, Danny." Met her eyes. "We evacuate the station, but I am going to find out what the Dominion is hiding, who is with me." Silence, then one by one hands raised. Tentacles, claws, appendages Danny had no name for, not everyone, not even most, but enough. The crystalline elder stepped forward. "I am too old to fight, but my people will shelter your wounded and supply your ships. Go, young human, find what the Dominion fears, and make them regret ever conquering the galaxy." Danny nodded. The blade dimmed, its message delivered. Behind them, the station shuddered as the first Dominion ships entered weapons range. The war had truly begun. And Danny Reeves, 16 years old from a ranch in Montana, was leading it. He wished he felt as brave as he sounded, but the blade hummed against his hip, warm and steady, and somehow that was enough. For now, it would have to be enough. The labor camp stretched across a gray wasteland, surrounded by walls that crackled with electric death. Thousands of aliens twalled in the mud, mining resources for Dominion war machines. Guards patrolled the perimeter, their weapons always ready. Danny watched from the ridge above. 3 months of desperate missions had hardened him. He had found 2 more Sunblades in hidden vaults across the galaxy. Both remained dormant, refusing to bond with anyone. He carried them anyway, hoping. "We should leave," Scylla said beside him. Her fur was matted with dust from their journey. "We do not have the forces to liberate this camp." "Look at them." Danny could not tear his eyes away from the prisoners below, families separated, children forced to work, an entire species ground into nothing. The Dominion did this to them. The Dominion has done this to 1,000 worlds. We cannot save them all. We can save these ones. Scylla grabbed his arm. "This is not the mission. We came to find the hidden vault, not start a war we cannot win." "The vault is empty. Someone raided it centuries ago." Danny finally looked at her. "But these people are real. They are suffering right now, and I can do something about it." He saw the conflict in her eyes, the tactical mind fighting against the heart that had lost too many already. "You are going to get us killed," she said. "Probably," Danny stood. "Stay here if you want, I will understand." She cursed in her own language. "Rin, do not abandon their pack. Let us go save some slaves." They hit the camp at midnight. Danny moved like a ghost through the darkness, the blade cutting through walls and guards alike. The dormant sunblades hung at his belt, dead weight that served no purpose. But then everything went wrong. An alarm triggered, floodlights blazed, Keth reinforcements poured from a hidden barracks. Danny found himself surrounded, back against a wall, prisoners cowering behind him. Too many enemies, not enough time. A young alien girl pushed through the crowd of slaves. She was small, barely reaching Danny's waist, with pale skin and large, dark eyes. No more than 8 years old by human standards. "Get back," Danny shouted. She did not listen. She ran toward him, toward the Keth closing in. A Keth raised its weapon to fire. Danny lunged forward, but he was too slow. He would not reach her in time. The girl threw herself in front of him. Light exploded. Not from Danny's blade, from one of the dormant ones at his belt. It tore free and flew to the girl's hand, blazing with power that drove back the Keth like leaves in a hurricane. Danny stared. The blade had bonded. For the first time in 800 years, a new blade keeper had been chosen. The girl stood there, trembling, holding a weapon of legend like it was made for her. "What is happening?" she whispered. "You are one of us now," Danny said. He grabbed her hand. "But we need to run first, explanations later." They ran. The slaves ran with them, a flood of desperate beings pouring through the holes Danny had cut in the walls. Ships arrived. The last whisper and a dozen others, loading refugees as fast as they could. The Dominion responded with overwhelming force. Warships dropped from orbit. Half the Resistance fleet was destroyed, covering the evacuation. Danny watched good people die. Every death felt like a blade in his chest. They escaped, barely, with thousands of freed slaves and one new blade keeper. Her name was Pell. She spoke little and trusted less. The years in the camp had taught her that hope was a lie. But the blade did not care about her doubts. It had chosen her, and slowly, over the weeks that followed, Danny watched her begin to believe. "You saved me," she said one night, practicing forms with her blade while Danny watched. "Why, you did not know me." "Because it was right. The Dominion says weakness is wrong. They say compassion is for prey." Danny knelt to meet her eyes. "The Dominion is afraid. They have spent 1,000 years trying to crush every good thing in the galaxy, but they cannot kill hope. They cannot kill kindness. And as long as people like you and me exist, they will never win." Pell stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "I want to fight them." "You will, we both will." Danny stood. "The blade showed me coordinates to their throne world. Something is hidden there, something the Dominion fears more than anything." "Then we go there." "Yes," Danny looked out at the stars. "We go straight into the heart of darkness, and we do not come back until the Dominion falls." Pell's blade pulsed in rhythm with his own. 2 keepers now, 2 lights against the void. It was not enough, but it was a start. And sometimes a start was all you needed. 1,000 warships filled the void between Danny and the Dominion throne world. The largest fleet ever assembled, summoned to protect the heart of an empire. Behind Danny, the combined resistance forces waited. Fewer ships, fewer weapons, fewer soldiers, but more hope than the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. "There is no way through," Scylla said quietly. Danny looked at Pell beside him, at the crew who had become his family, at the blade humming in his hand. "There is always a way," he said. "We just have to be crazy enough to try." The attack began everywhere at once. Resistance cells on 100 worlds rose up simultaneously. The Dominion fleet fractured, ships peeling away to handle threats across the galaxy. It was not enough to clear a path, but it was enough to create chaos. Danny's small ship dove through the gap. Weapons fire streaked past. Shields flared and failed, but they kept flying, kept pushing, kept believing. They crashed on the throne world's surface, with barely enough ship left to walk out of. Danny led his team into the ancient tunnels beneath the Dominion capital. The blade guided them, pulling him toward something deep underground. They found an architect ruin, the largest ever discovered. The Dominion had built their entire empire on top of it, spending centuries trying to unlock its secrets. At the ruin's heart, Danny found what he had come for. 7 sunblades, suspended in stasis fields. The last of the captured weapons, held here because even the Dominion could not destroy them. And standing before them, waiting, was the supreme hierarch of the Dominion himself. The ancient Keth was massive, his scales dark as midnight, his eyes burning with cold. Intelligence, he had ruled for 400 years. He had crushed more rebellions than Danny could count. "You are younger than I expected," the hierarch said, "a child playing with forces beyond his understanding." "Maybe," Danny gripped his blade, "but this child is going to end your empire." The hierarch laughed. "You do not even know what the awakening is, do you? You carry that blade thinking it is a weapon against tyranny. It is not. It is a signal, a call." "A call to what?" "The architects." The hierarch's laughter died. "They are not gone, they are sleeping. Somewhere beyond the edge of known space, they wait in a slumber that has lasted millions of years. The sunblades were created to wake them." Danny felt cold. "And you do not want them to wake up?" "Of course not. They would end everything we have built, every conquest, every victory. 1,000 years of Dominion rule, undone by beings so powerful they make us look like insects." "Good." Danny raised his blade and shattered the first stasis field. The sunblade inside blazed to life. It hung in the air for a single moment, then vanished. Somewhere across the galaxy, a new keeper had been chosen. Danny shattered the next field, and the next, and the next. The hierarch screamed in rage and attacked, but Pell was there, her blade meeting his claws. Scylla and the others fought his guards. Danny kept going. 7 fields, 7 blades, 7 new lights igniting across 1,000 conquered worlds. A farmer on a dying planet felt power fill his hands. A prisoner in a labor camp suddenly held hope made solid. A child hiding in ruins found the strength to fight back. 12 blades, 12 keepers. For the first time in 10,000 years, the circle was complete. Danny raised his blade. The symbols along its edge blazed brighter than stars. "I call the awakening," he said. The ground shook. The sky split open. Something answered from beyond the edge of forever. The architects rose. They were vast beyond comprehension, ancient beyond memory. They looked upon the galaxy they had left behind and saw what the Dominion had done. Their first question echoed in every mind across every world. "Why have you woken us?" Danny spoke for 1,000,000,000,000 souls. "Because the galaxy needs hope." The architects considered, then they moved. The Dominion fell in days, not through violence, through revelation. The architects simply showed every conquered species the truth. Lies they had been fed, the power they had always possessed, the chains that existed only in their minds. 1 year later, Danny stood on a hill overlooking his grandfather's ranch. Montana stretched around him, unchanged despite everything that had happened above. Pell sat beside him, her blade resting across her knees. Scylla watched from nearby, along with the others who had become his family. His grandfather stepped onto the porch. The old man still did not fully understand everything, but he looked at his grandson with pride that needed no words. "Coming inside?" his grandfather asked. "Dinner is almost ready." Danny looked up at the stars, once so distant, now so familiar. "Yeah, Grandpa," he said, "I am coming." The blade hummed warmly at his hip. Its work was not done. The galaxy still needed healing. The architects still needed guidance in a universe that had changed so much. But tonight, Danny Reeves was just a 17-year-old having dinner with his family. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, 11 other blades pulsed in rhythm with his own. A heartbeat of hope spreading across 1,000,000,000 worlds. The Dominion was gone. The architects had returned. And humanity, forgotten by the galaxy for so long, had sparked the greatest change in 10,000 years. All because one teenager from Montana had the courage to reach out and take an alien blade. Some stories end with victory. This one ended with a beginning.